Hey button pushers, my name is Nick and welcome to Bridge Constructor, The Walking Dead, which is, honestly, and I say this, hand on heart, is the crossover that I did not see coming. But is it the crossover that we secretly needed? That's the question. I'm going to answer that question. No, it's not. So this was developed by ClockStone and published by Headup games. And the lovely people behind the game were generous enough to give me a code for the game, so kisses, thank you very much to them. So, if you know anything about Bridge Constructor, you know kind of roughly what to expect with the game. It's partially physics-based, mostly nonsense-based. It's been around obviously since 2011 and has spawned 5 follow-on games. So you had a medieval update, a stunts update, a portal update, and now a Walking Dead update. So all of the other updates kind of made sense with the game because it's what it was. There's a certain stun element to the main game anyway. Portals, I mean, everything's better with portals. The Walking Dead intrigued me because what and why? They were the two questions that came to mind. But I love nonsense games. I love The Walking Dead. So I figured, why not? Let's give it a go, and hopefully this weird mashup of different worlds has worked. So the game takes place over 5 different chapters, with each chapter having 8 different levels, I believe. I haven't played all of the game, but I'll come to that momentarily. So if that is correct, then that means there's 40 levels in total, and my brain hurt playing this after about 12.
The world came to an end, and we didn't even realize it. People got sick and died. Then started coming back. The pundits on cable news said it was all a hoax. A month later, they were dead too. Some refused to accept what was happening, insisted it was just fear-mongering. Then the first cities fell. Then the rest fell apart, fast. The earth grew quiet. Humanity was now an endangered species. Those few of us who survived were terrified and lost, scavenging the remains of a world that had all but disappeared overnight.
So you start the game following the story of Miles and Kyra. They're survivors trying to avoid the walkers and get to safely. They stumble across Eugene, who, if you've seen Walking Dead, is the guy with a fantastic mullet. He also has a fantastic mullet in this, albeit a slightly more animated version than the one we're currently used to. The basic premise of the game is kind of the same as regular Bridge Constructor games. You have a checkpoint that you need to get to, but instead of getting a car across a rickety bridge that you've constructed, you have to get survivors across into the checkpoint and not get them eaten by zombies in the process. So, sounds simple enough, and as a basic premise, it very much is. But, and you knew there was going to be a but, it's not going to be that simple, is it? Some levels also have checkpoints, which I know isn't a new thing for Bridge Constructor games, but there'll be points where you can interact with things. So you have to get a character across a gap to a checkpoint, then you select what they do, so they can either interact with something, move up and down a ladder if it's there, or go left and right. So you can stack up to 5 different options at any time, so they'll always do one after another. So some levels are simple. They're just a one checkpoint, so you get them to it, you get them to do whatever, so it can be climb a ladder, or it can be press this button, which will drop a container. Some of the characters, though, they have special commands that can be used. So Eugene is the first character that you have that has the special command. His special command is that he can throw a toy doll. So it's a noisy little thing that attracts walkers. So some of the levels aren't just about getting you from point A to point B. You also have to kill the walkers, or a certain number of walkers in the level before you can carry on. That's where this toy comes in very handy. So there's a level quite early on where you have to drop a container onto a bunch of zombies, but they're too scattered for it to hit them all. So you need to, on one of the checkpoints before you get Eugene to go up or down the ladder, you need to get them to throw the doll to attract them all into the middle. So then when you press the button, they all go But these obviously get a lot more complicated throughout the games. So at the end of the first chapter, you meet Daryl, who obviously has a crossbow. So when you have to worry about him for the level, his special ability is obviously the crossbow, and you have a limited number of ammo. So you can either use it to attack zombies, break breakable things, or whatever you want to use a crossbow for, basically. And then about midway through chapter 2, you meet Naomi, who has grenades. So again, similar to Daryl's crossbow, you can either use it to take out walkers or clear the path if you need to. But again, you always have very limited ammo, so you can't just spam grenades everywhere and hope for the best. You need to be quite careful about how you use them. So as with previous Bridge Constructor games and, games in general, there's a certain progression to the game. So when you start off, you just have wood, and you just use wooden supports and then wooden planks to get over the gaps, which is simple enough. Towards the end of the first chapter, it then starts introducing cable, so you can use that for additional support on bridges. And at the start of chapter 2, it introduces steel. So I got up to level 3 in chapter 3 before giving up. And again, I will come to that in a moment. But up until that point of the game, they're the only components that I'd been given to work with, which was enough, to be completely honest. Having the 3 to work with is good. It gives you a good amount of options to change and manipulate and play about with, especially when it comes to chapter 2, because then you have to start moving cars as well. So you have to obviously consider the weight of the cars, because you have a car and an RV that needs to be moved. So obviously there's a bit of weight discrepancy between a person and an RV. You've also got a target on each level to try and hit for the completionists of the world. So if you manage to build the bridge or build everything you need to in the level underneath a certain cost criteria, then you'll get a medal for it. I tried that to start with. I think I got about 5 levels into chapter 1 before I just gave up trying to do that, because it was just ridiculous. It was hard enough trying to build them to actually work, let alone ones that come in under the cost price as well. It's just not going to happen. So I mentioned that I didn't finish the game, and I like playing through an entire game before I review it, because I want the whole picture. And I tried with this. So I've sat down on 2 different occasions with my thought of, okay, I'm just going to play this through until it's done. And I just can't. I just can't do it. I can actually pinpoint, because I wrote it down, that it stopped being fun around level 7 in chapter 2. It was at that point that I stopped enjoying the game, and I can't put my finger on why. There was just something about it. It lost its charm. It had a certain charm and kind of novelty up until that point. On that level, it just wore itself out for some reason. I wish I could be more specific, but I can't. It's just, that was the time it struck into my head that I'm not enjoying this anymore. Definitely the good things about it. There is a charm and a novelty to it. Fair enough, it wore out for me after a while, but it 100% has one, and squishing zombies is never going to stop being fun. That is just highly entertaining. There is quite a lot of variety to the levels as well, so sometimes you'll be moving people, sometimes you'll be moving cars, sometimes you have to move items, like there's no people to move at all. On some occasions you actually have to construct and then destroy the bridge in-game, so you have to think of a way that you can get someone across and then destroy it before something else can cross it, which was quite unique. Kind of goes against Bridge Constructor logic a little bit, but that was cool. It was something different. But the bad stuff, unfortunately for me, outweigh it. I said, it just became a chore after a while. And I really tried. I really wanted to love this game. There is a fine line between something being difficult and tricky and just being a bit of a chore, and this crossed that threshold into just being a bit of a chore. The story wasn't necessary. I get what they were doing with the story, and it was a good way to get Eugene to be quirky Eugene and use big crazy words, but it just, I struggled to care, which is a shame. And it's not because I don't like the subject matter, because I like The Walking Dead, but I didn't fall in love with the story, and therefore I ended up not really caring about it, which again was a shame. And my biggest pet peeve with this is that there's no way to actually speed up the playthrough. So some of the levels, especially when you get towards the end of chapter 2 into chapter 3, there's quite a lot of stuff. So there's quite a lot of different people moving at different times and different checkpoints, and you have to wait for things to finish before you can do something else. And if you get right to the end of the sequence and you've done something wrong, you have to then restart everything and just watch it play through all all over again just to see if it's going to work this time, which was a real pain in the arse. So it would have been good to have like a 2x, 3x speed playthrough, so you could just hit the button, speed it up, and watch them whiz round until you get to the point where you want it to be. That would have been a game changer. I think that's where a lot of the reason why I just kind of started feeling a bit, for something you need to sit there and watch it go for a little while just to find out it's not going to work, to see why it's not going to work, and then do it all over again. It puts a blocker right on your momentum, which is a pain. So it's a Bridge Constructor game, which is obviously a good thing. It's The Walking Dead, which is a good thing. There is definitely some charm and some novelty to the idea of using bridge construction to smush zombies, which, you know, is great. You can just outright punch zombies in the face as well, because why wouldn't you? But there's just something about it that doesn't sit right. It doesn't work. It fundamentally, for some reason, doesn't work. And that's a shame, because I really wanted to love this game. So I would definitely recommend trying it. I don't think it's that expensive. I think it's about £7, £8. I don't know if it's on sale at the moment, but it's definitely not expensive. And if you're a fan of Bridge Constructor games, and you've played them before, then you might get something out of it that I might have necessarily missed or not really appreciated. So I think it's definitely worth checking out, but it's not everything I wanted it to be, which is a shame. So, if you do want to check this out for yourself, then the link to the Steam page is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then why don't you go ahead and the like button, the shuffling corpse of my hopes and dreams that is the subscribe button. Make sure you that bad boy. And until next time, love you, bye.